Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious podcast, where we are covering the Ryder Cup, the biennial golf event that happens every year between the U.S. and Europe. And here to fill us in on all things Ryder Cup, all things golf, is our own hole-in-one, our unique, our favorite, our one-of-a-kind co-host, co-founder, Scott. Scott, welcome to the program.
I've never been called a hole-in-one, nor hit a hole-in-one, so thank you for
You've
the
never hit a
introduction.
hole-in-one?
No, I can't lie.
No. Is this where I
Someday.
queue up the Tom Cruise golf story just right at the front? Do it.
Let's get it out of the way. I know it's coming. Thank you for putting me on the spot. I was golfing at Shadow Creek, which is one of the best courses in the country. I'm not a very good golfer, and the caddy wasn't very nice about it, so he told me I was the worst golfer he'd ever seen since Tom Cruise. So there's the story.
I mean, Tom Cruise does his own stunts off of, 100-story buildings. So I would consider that flattering.
Mm-hmm. You can do stunts, but I guess you can't hit a driver. So,
well,
here we are.
Neither can I. So that puts me basically in the same category as Tom Cruise. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Yeah. Essentially. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I am taking golf lessons, or going to start taking golf lessons. So you've inspired me. I want to learn something new. When your husband says your only hobby is working, you need to find a new hobby. And so I'm going to learn from all of this. You're going to teach me all the things. So exactly. So, okay, let's talk about
and you'll be able to talk about the Ryder Cup.
Yep.
Yes.
There you go. Yes. Okay, well, let's talk about the Ryder Cup. So as I mentioned in the opener, the Ryder Cup is every 2 years where 24 of the best players from Europe and the United States, so they go head-to-head in competition. And this year's event starts on the 29th of September, and it's in Rome, Italy, which, what a better place to play golf. I mean, that sounds pretty good. Tell me a little bit about the Ryder Cup. Give us a little bit of a background, if you can.
So first of all, it's the most patriotic golf event there is. I mean, all the players really buy into, USA versus Europe. So there's a lot of patriotism. I'm sure you may have seen in the past. The fans go all out. When it's in America, everyone's dressed, in American flag attire, just going crazy. It's every 2 years. Like you said, the 24 best players from Europe and the US go at it. And it's all for pride. There is no actual monetary prize. So this is just strictly for pride of country.
And what?
And there is a charity. There is a charity aspect that we will probably get into later. So there is some charity. So
now, talk to me about what I've heard rumors of, the very American look that our players might be sporting when their hairstyles.
So leading up to the event, there's been some social media posts that a few players like Brooks Koepka, I know you've heard of Brooks, and Sam Burns, they are sporting the very American hairstyle of a mullet. So, so far, 2 of them have mullets. We'll see who else joins the party in the front, business in the back.
So we have obviously Brooks, who is an LIV player. He's no longer a PGA player, so that we're going to have to address. But talk to me a little bit about how they make up these teams. So they each obviously have 12 players, 12 for the US, 12 for Europe. How do these players get chosen? Who is the captain? What does that mean? And then maybe give us a little bit, if you can remember too, on the back end of how we got an LIV live golfer on there.
There's a lot to unpack there, especially with
LIV
golf.
Good question.
To start it out, we should address the captain, Zach Johnson, he's the captain, so he's essentially the coach of the U.S. Ryder team. And that comes with a lot of responsibility as far as naming players to the squad, picking who's playing when, picking different matchups. So there's a lot of chemistry that goes into a lot of these matchups. So he's got a really hard job. And he was chosen to be captain by, there's a a panel of the PGA has a big panel that comes together and nominates people based on merit and past experience. So Zach Johnson is our captain, Captain America.
Captain America.
And then from there, the team's made up of so there's 6 spots that are made up strictly by point rankings throughout the season. So throughout the golf season, there's 6 spots that the captain doesn't have to do anything. They're locked in. And then there's 6 spots available that the captain gets to pick. So that's where a lot of the pressure comes on the captain, naming who else outside those top 6 will be on the team.
So automatically qualifying, we have, let's see, we have Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, and Xander Schauffele. And then who did Johnson pick?
So Johnson, there was a few controversial ones. We'll go through them first, then we can unpack. Sam Burns, Mullet, Ricky Fowler, Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and Justin Thomas.
Okay, so
a lot of
you told me, yes, go
big
ahead.
names there. I should say a lot of big names. There was, like I said, some controversy. Somebody like Justin Thomas. I mean, he definitely had the worst year of his career. Unfortunately, just couldn't put it together. But he did make the squad based on previous outcomes in the Ryder Cup. So,
and it appears that he's
there
never
with
played in the
great locker room guy.
Yeah, and it appears he's never played in a Ryder Cup. Is that true, Thomas?
No, he has. He's been on the Ryder Cup team before.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know if you remember. I think it was 2021. He was out there on I think maybe one of the holes chugging beers with the fans.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Memorable.
probably why he has a spot. Yes.
Patriotism.
Yes.
Okay, so
talk me through. I know there's a lot of controversy with LIV golfers when they originally left the PGA Tour. People were, furious, upset, and they've said that none of the LIV golfers would be included in the Ryder Cup. And that was a major point in the breaking of the 2 leagues. But Brooks Koepka, he won a major. He's an LIV golfer. So he kind of, destroyed that narrative, and they named him to the team, all in the hopes of America getting a win.
What is the history? I think that says that the U.S. is up 24-9-2 in the history, but it seems like that was maybe an earlier. It's been a rush as of late. Is that correct?
Yes. First of all, I'll say it's in Europe, and Europe has not lost on home soil since 1993. So that is definitely a hill to climb. We've got to face all the Europeans with some hopefully American support in the crowd. And I think the stat is that the European teams have taken 8 of the last 10 trophies. Is that kind of what you've seen?
So look out. Yes, that's what I've seen too. So look out. Look out, U.S.
Yeah, there's a tough uphill battle. But they did win the last one. USA won in 2021. And it was actually the largest point gap in history, I believe. They won by 10 points.
That's fantastic. So I should
we have some
say
momentum. Yeah.
Yep, that's good. And so I should say, championing the European team, we should just highlight these names because some you may have heard of, some you probably haven't. But their captain is Luke Donald, and their 6 automatic qualifiers are obviously Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Robert McIntyre, Victor Hovland, Tyrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ludwig, and then the ones who've been captain picks: Ludwig Adberg, Tommy Fleetwood, Nikolai Hogard. I might screw that up. Sorry if I did. Shane Lowry, Justin Rose, and Sepp Straka. So those are who we have representing Team Europe. Now, the American team also has vice captains who we've heard of, names like Fred Couples, Jim Furyk, Davis Love III. How does one get to be a vice captain? Because these are older golfers who are probably either on the senior tour or retired. So how does that one get that role as a vice captain?
First off, I'd like to commend you on the pronunciation of some of those European players. So great job.
Thank you.
The vice captains are essentially, they're going to be the assistant coaches, if you will, kind of like basketball. They're there to provide insight, give their opinions. If Zach Johnson can't perform his duties, they can step in and take over. So they're basically just there as assistant coaches, and that's based on past performances in Ryder Cup experience. Like you said, a lot of these guys are a little bit older, so they've got a lot of input to give as far as hoping to win the Ryder Cup.
Well, and golf is one of those great games that you have a senior tour, so you're not just riding out in the sunset at age 38. You can go on the senior tour, which I think is really cool, and it proves that this continues to be an age-defying sport. You have guys like Phil Mickelson who are still playing in LIV and who are past their prime, for lack of a better word, and maybe not politically correct to say, but past his prime. But he's still playing, he's still earning, and granted, LIV is a different story than the senior tour, but it's really neat to see that they have opportunities to bring these players back.
Yeah, and they bring so much experience and camaraderie. Great in the locker room. So I mean, golf is the eternal game. You can play forever if you stay healthy. Unlike Tiger. So
that's true.
It's good to have these guys there.
Hey,
Who knows? Tiger might make an appearance.
You never know. I've been using the Proteus machine, the one that you saw on Quarterback on Netflix, at the gym, and they have one that's a golf workout.
Mhm.
So I've been working on my, my swing, work my back out.
So you're on your way to becoming an elite athlete.
Basically, so I mean, I recently read that the Lady LPGA, or Ladies Professional Golf Association, is the fastest growing women's league in terms of partnerships. So basically, I'm at age 42 gearing up for that. I figured it would be no time like the present.
Hey, like you said, you can play golf till 50s, 60s, so you're almost entering your prime.
Now, there is a women's equivalent of the Ryder Cup. It's called the Solheim Cup. Is that correct?
It is, and it was just played the weekend prior to the Ryder Cup, and it's essentially the same, U.S. versus Europe. So, unfortunately, the USA lost.
Well, did I see that it was a tie? So technically speaking, Europe retained the cup, so it was a tie. Did I see that?
And yeah, I believe it's the same as that's the same format as the Ryder Cup as well. So if it ends up in a tie, the previous winners retain it. So
okay. And then Solheim Cup was obviously this year, but now it's going to move back to its even number years, so it doesn't conflict with the Ryder Cup. But COVID threw everybody off when it came to timing of all those things.
Actually, I didn't realize that they did the alternating years, so that was good to know.
Well, now we know, right? Okay, now one thing I do want to highlight before we go into sort of wrapping this one up a little bit. You mentioned that Ryder Cup winners that will not receive any prize money, but PGA will give Team USA, the 12 players, $200,000 each, but it's not for them to go out and spend on a house or some sort of holiday. The money is evenly split, with $100,000 of that going to the Boys and Girls Club of America, their drive, chip, and putt championship, and the PGA Junior League Golf, and then $100,000 of that, the rest of that goes to the player's charity of choice. So each player gets $200,000. $50,000 goes each to the Boys and Girls Club of America, and then to PGA Junior League Golf, and then $100,000 goes into the charities of each player's choice, which I think, that's a cool opportunity. Yes, we know guys have joined LIV to make more money, but a lot of these guys probably don't necessarily need more cash. You can always need more cash, but it's for the
no one ever says I have too much money, so it's nice to see the charity aspect and the players actually buying in 100% to commit to playing, even though there is no real monetary prize.
One would argue that Tiger said, when he said no to like the $500 bazillion that LIV offered him, that he was telling them that he had enough money.
Yeah, Tiger may have enough money. Some of these guys do not have Tiger money, I'll tell you that much.
That's true. That's a true statement. Considering there's some names I don't recognize, that's probably a true statement. So
Hmm.
lastly, I'd like
Yeah.
for you to leave us because you're the brilliance when it comes to this scoring, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to me about, so if I'm watching this, how does this setup work and how do they score this? Like, how does it all, what am I watching for? Because normally you watch a golf tournament and they're playing in twosomes or foursomes. And so put this all together for me
Hmm.
in a very 101 Ryder Cup golf way, please.
You got it. So yeah, you're not going to tune in and see a typical golf tournament like you're used to, where every man's playing for himself. There's a team aspect to this, and unlike LIV tried to do the team aspect, but it just really didn't have the same feel. So in this case, I don't know if we talked about the points. So there's 28 points available, and to win the Ryder Cup, you've got to get to 14 and a half points. So each win equals a point. So that's kind of the format. And then, so each of the first 2 days, there's one 4-match session of 4-ball and one format session of a foursome. Now, bear with me. It's not as complicated as you think. In the 4-ball, each of the 2-man teams, so it's 2 men from Europe, 2 men from the United States, and they're just going to play their own ball on every hole like they would in every other tournament. And the lowest score on each hole wins. Hopefully that's simple enough.
Okay.
And if the lowest score is tied, the whole halves, so you get half a point. That's how you can get half a point
Got
to
it.
get to
Makes
14
sense.
and a half. And then in the 4-match session of a foursome, it's a little bit different. So you'll have 2 men from Europe, 2 men from the USA, and they're going to take alternate shots. So one guy will tee off, the next guy will hit the next shot, and then the guy who teed off hits the shot after that.
Interesting.
So it's a little bit different format. So that's why you're going to
Huh.
see, something a little bit different than when you tune into a normal golf tournament.
That's kind of fun. So could you
Yeah, so it's a
essentially,
little bit different.
if you have a twosome, let's say that you and I are playing just for
Mhm.
shits and giggles. We're playing for Team USA. Can you tee off every time if you're the better driver and I'm the better putter? Like, can that be a thing, or do you have to rotate? Do you know?
See, that's where the captain comes in big with this strategy. So you're obviously going to have the guy who can drive it off the tee do it every time.
Sure.
So that's where Zach Johnson's input comes in on who he matches up. So you want somebody who can drive long off the tee, and then maybe the second guy is somebody who's really good with his iron playoff. So
Interesting. Fascinating. I think that'll make it much more interesting to watch. It's just something different that we're not
yeah,
used to seeing.
and then there is 12 single matches as well mixed in there, so there's a lot going on. So there is single matches, so you will see one-on-one too. So there's a little bit of everything going on this weekend.
It's like a buffet, something for everyone, whatever you're watching. All of it will be
Yes.
excellent to take a golf nap too. That's all that really matters
Hmm.
because a golf nap is delectable. One thing I did fail to mention when we were talking through this is we've all watched the Netflix documentary Full Swing, and fantastic show. Remember, right, if you recall watching it, I guess probably the spring of this year, it was when LIV and PGA were having their separation and that whole tension point of that. So they're still filming a next season of Full Swing, but they won't have full access to the Ryder Cup. That Zach Johnson said he spoke to his players on the team, and they were concerned about having a film crew in the team rooms, so they unanimously decided to keep some areas off limits, which we did not see when it came to the actual the first season of Full Swing. So that will be interesting. I'll be curious how much we're really missing.
I think, yeah, you're not going to get to see really any of the strategy on who they pick and why they pick them. Maybe that's so they don't hurt anybody's feelings.
That's probably true.
Maybe picking one guy to pair with someone because he doesn't like him or he doesn't get along with him. So I think that might just be more to protect the players than anything, really,
That's an interesting
if you think
perspective.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Because,
since Brooks left for
the
LIV,
picking
they don't
who
want to.
plays together is such, yeah, who plays together is such a big aspect of this tournament. So
So interesting. That's a really good
If
point.
somebody's
See, this
mad
is
that
why
if somebody's mad they don't have a mullet and they don't want to play with Sam Burns, that's why. So we'll never get to know.
well, with that, I mean, what better way to wrap that up than the drama that can be
I think that's
the
it.
Ryder Cup and the behind the scenes that we won't see. So hopefully you all enjoyed learning a little bit more about the Ryder Cup that you can serve up in your office or when you're playing at a golf tournament. It's fall. It's perfect weather to be playing outside. The tournament itself starts on the 29th to October 1st in Rome, Italy. We have 24 players from the US and Europe playing each other in this biennial tournament, which is really exciting. So thank you, Scott, for being here. And what I want to mention
Thank you
is
for
we have some
having me.
great podcast topics coming up. We have a little bit of delay. So if you're listening to us and we kind of keep talking over each other by just a tiny bit, it seems we have a bit of a delay, but we won't have a delay coming up on some upcoming episodes. We're talking about the Major League Baseball playoffs and why you should give a crap about them. We've got some great topics for Women's History Month in October. And of course, one that's going to be fantastic, a Halloween-themed podcast coming up at the end of October. So make sure that if you love listening to us, that you share us with your friends, that you subscribe, and that you rate and review the podcast. Thanks, Scott, for being here. Appreciate all of you for listening.
Thank you. Go USA.